All right. Hi, guys. Welcome back to In Pursuit of Our Roots. Today, we have a special episode with the PWIs and HBCUs. So we have my school, Southern Methodist University. We have Thine and Bethany on the call with us today. And then we have UTA, University Texas at Arlington. We have Devin and Jeremiah, which go to Jackson School. And then we have Carrington School Spelman, and we have her friend Monique. And then we have Morehouse. And we have Jeremiah that goes, not Jeremiah, sorry, Jordan that goes to Morehouse. Sorry, Jordan, I'm looking at so many J's right now. But the first question I want to ask, and just like raise your hand, did you guys go to PWIs K through 12? Like, did you go to schools that were like predominantly like white K through 12? All right, me too. That was most of us. It's okay, Jordan. It's okay, Devin. You were strong with the whole entire community. And I wanted to ask you guys, and I'm going to start with Bethany. I wanted to ask, what was your experience like K through 12 going to a predominantly white school?
So I went to a predominantly white like elementary school and then middle school, but then my high school was predominantly Black and Latinx. So I guess my earlier years really shaped like my aspect of school, and it was kind of difficult to navigate, like going to a predominantly white school. And I guess that's why like I wasn't really plugged in and connected to the Black community, because I went to a predominantly white elementary school and I went to a predominantly white middle school. So when I was in high school, I was like, oh wow, I didn't know about like all this exposure and all these like different people and cultures. And so I was like, wow, I really need to plug into that. And that happened really in high school. But yeah, going to a predominantly white elementary and middle school was definitely interesting. And it kind of, I don't know, it was difficult to navigate. So yeah.
Understood. Fine.
Fine. I'm actually the same as Bethany. So my high school is also performing arts school, that aspect of identity thrown in the mix. But I would definitely say that middle school and elementary school for me was about finding the small, tiny community that you will have. All of my friends were always Black, but it was only 6 of us all the time. So it only makes your connection stronger, but because you're navigating the difficult life of a PWI. So yeah.
Most definitely. Monique?
So I grew up in like Virginia, like right outside DC. And so I went through like the whole can y'all hear me?
Yes, you're good.
Yeah, the whole PWI like life education throughout my whole life. But I think what I found valuable is I grew up outside of the chocolate city, before gentrification, like DC. So I felt like I was very connected to the Black community in that aspect. And I had a lot of friends who went to like public schools in DC, and when they would talk about their lives, which were super diverse and cool, it was very different. And I think that sometimes that was like really hard to think about, being one of the only, and then on top of that, having the achievement gap tied in. So like I did the IB program and I was like literally the only Black girl. And I say girl because we're not taking away from anybody's identities, but the only other Black guy was mixed out of like 100 kids in the IB program. So yeah.
Got you. Carrington?
So I think that I started, the first school that I went to was a private Christian school, I was actually the only Black student in my entire grade. There wasn't any other Black children. And so I think that going to a PWI and then having like family members or like going to church where they went to schools that were predominantly Black, it was a different experience because I felt like I didn't get to have the same experiences that they had, like, and grow up the same way that my cousins or like my friends from church were growing up.
Jackson?
I grew up in St. Louis on the Illinois side, so that's like cornfields and stuff. So I grew up in small town, and I kind of share a lot of y'all's perspectives. We just had white and black kids, but it was mostly white. So it wasn't like a whole lot of diversity at all in our school. And the white kids had some jokes, bro. I mean, I remember one time when I was real young, actually it was through middle school. I had a nickname. My name is Jackson, to get that out the way. So the joke was, since I'm black, I'm Blackson. And that followed me all the way to high school here in Frisco.
That's so cool. Jordan?
My elementary school, I moved around a little bit. Like in elementary school, I went to Cheatham Hill, which was down like Marietta, stuff like that. And I moved up to like Woodstock, Georgia. And my middle school was cool, but I didn't really realize like what's it called, the race and like the effectiveness of my skin color and my skin tone. So I really got to high school, because then I realized just all the messed up things that was going on. Like I saw like there was systematic racism in there. There was like, I feel like I saw ways that like they used to kind of oppress a lot of black people that was in the school, because it was like mostly like white people. And so there was other things going on there as well. Like some people, like I remember the principal, something happened sometime, and the principal thought like I was a bad student. Like he from the jump was like, "You're a bad student, you're a bad kid." He thought that I had like a whole case of bad things that I've been doing since I was like coming up since 9th grade. And I was like, my record is clear. So it was just things that was happening there. And like sometimes I walk through the halls, teachers wouldn't like, they couldn't look at me in my eyes. And I was like, why can't you even look at me in my eyes? And I'm like, maybe it's because I'm black. So it was just like things like that happened with me. But yeah.
Jeremiah?
I guess up until middle school, I moved schools every year. So I have like a little bit of a mix.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to say, I guess when I went to predominantly white institutions, my thing was predominantly white schools. I guess it was like when I was like very younger, so I didn't really see much of a difference. I kind of felt like a difference. Sometimes I would see I wanted to be like the white kids, so they're like more accepted, like socially. And then when I went to the blacker schools, it was more like in the poverty area, you know what I'm saying? So I guess like a lot of it dealt with, just me like not knowing how to fit in. I wasn't black enough at the time. And yeah, I guess what I saw is like a lot of the times it's they view it as like a ghetto school. Like when it's like a majority black people, they view it as a ghetto school. So it's less there's like less care going to the schools. And I just see that I saw a lot more teachers not really care about their jobs. I remember like when I was younger, like in 3rd grade, I ended up actually having anger issues because one time the teacher told me that she didn't care if I was getting bullied. So I started fighting a lot, you know what I'm saying? And then she started to care. But then after that, I switched back to a predominantly white institution, and it was just cool, I guess. I knew who I was. I stayed with black people. I'm mostly hanging out with black people, and I still do. And then up until middle school was kind of a mix. Then high school was different. It was like black, and it was mostly black. It was a lot of mix. It was very diverse, and I guess like I think it was cool for me to have friends of a different race, but it's also, you don't feel left out. I feel safer when I'm with people in my skin tone, because if I'm with a group of a lot of white people, they'll make jokes that are insensitive to me. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes they'll say, I've had to stop being friends with certain white people because they didn't understand the plight of who I am as a black person. So, but yeah, that's my experience.
Yeah, I completely agree with all of you guys. So I was born and raised in like Frisco because like my parents bought a plot of land here before it blew up, built a house. And Frisco is a predominantly white town. So I knew when I was in kindergarten that I was like different. I had like no idea like what it meant because it's, your girl was only like 5 going on 6. So I'm just thinking, oh, I'm just like different from everyone else, but realizing that I was the only like Black girl in my classroom at that time. And it carried throughout like elementary, where I was the only Black girl in my classroom. And then middle school and high school, there would be like other Black kids, but like not a lot. And really trying to find that group of people that I could be with, like Fine said. That way I didn't feel like completely like alone, because I felt alone in kindergarten and a little bit of middle school because I just didn't know who I was, unlike in like my identity as like a Black young girl living and going to school with like predominantly like white students, and them like teasing me because like my hair in its natural state, it's like a nice little afro. And I love my afro, but they would like tease because of my afro and then like the beads in my hair when I was little. So really finding like that nice group of people was like very helpful for me, because if I didn't, I have no idea where I would be right now, to be quite honest with you. So moving on to the next question. This question is directed towards PWI. So what was your experience like once you went to college? Like after you graduated from K through 12, what was your experience? Because I read an article with Bethany in it from the Observer called, once again, the hashtag Black at SMU is trending at Southern Methodist University. And I saw what Bethany had to say about that when it came to her experience with the police. So I'm just going to start with her once again, and then we'll just move on through with everyone else that goes to PWIs for college. So Bethany?
Absolutely. SMU was a complete culture shock for me. I went in there and I was like, wow, I was not ready for this. Even going to a predominantly white middle school and a predominantly white elementary school, I was not ready for the microaggressions, the blatant racism that is like in combination with just navigating everyday SMU life as a Black student. And then just like another layer was like me being a transfer and then me being a queer student at the same time. So like those are like also like layers and identities that like made it really difficult for me to like navigate the SMU campus. I remember like in my the first year English class, like we were reading The Bluest Eye by Toni Morrison. And boy, the things that my white classmates said, it was insane. And I was sitting there alone as a Black student. I just felt very defenseless. And so with like the police interactions, I felt like I didn't realize that my car was like obviously a target, because like, here I am driving my car at SMU, and SMU, the culture is like people have really nice and luxurious cars, and like I am here with my car that I bought, and I'm like really proud of my car. It's great. It's a Kia, and it's older, and like when it didn't have an SMU bumper sticker on, it was something that was like the police officers would follow it all the time. And I know that other Black students have had that, or do you really go to this campus? Like, can I see your student ID interaction with SMU PD? And so that really just like angered me. I mean, eventually I started putting like my sorority letters or either like an SMU sticker. Like that was like the first thing that I did. And then yes, like people stopped following my car, but like I realized like it shouldn't take that. Like I'm a student there, and even if I wasn't a student there, you shouldn't be following my car around just because I'm Black, and so that kind of led to like me like starting a movement at SMU, people telling their police interactions, and then also like trying to reduce police presence on campus, because SMU is patrolled by 4 different police departments, and that shouldn't be so, especially especially if they're targeting Black and brown students that are on our campus. Like, it's ridiculous. So yeah, that's just like my interactions going to a PWI in the beginning. It was incredibly rough, but I'm thankful for like the Black community that I've like seen and like gotten to know now, you know, like the waves and like the encouragement. That's like kind of what keeps me pushing and keeps me going. So like getting to know people like Tyne and even getting to see your like Instagram, Sierra, like just like that's just like encouraging, and like getting to know like that Black people are there, their voices are important, and they're you know changing the culture of PWI. That's what is encouraging and keeps me pushing.
Preach on that, sis. Preach on that. All right, Tyne girl, the spotlight's yours.
I definitely had the same experience. Well, okay, let me be full disclosure. I received multiple rides to HBCUs across the country, and I actually decided to go to SMU. So same experience as Bethany, walking into orientation, and I walked straight out. I said, Mom, we're not going here. Let's get in the car. We're going back to Houston because I'm not going here. Like, I don't know why. What I was thinking was, this is survival of the fittest. I need a college education, and SMU is willing to pay for it. So this is what it is. And no HBCUs at the time had a theater training that I was comfortable paying for or going into. So it has been survival of the fittest still, but I'm not gonna lie, I don't regret it. It's made me the activist that I am. I wouldn't be getting the research grants that I'm getting for my app. I don't think I would be getting the white, powerful, institutional opportunities that I'm getting at the Tower Center as a public policy student. And I really wish I was like Howard. I was like, I'm going to Howard. It's happening. Howard did not give me a full ride. And so it has made me stronger in my voice in the Black community. And I mean, besides class, I really do not interact with white students. So I don't have to like always be on the defense. Mm-hmm. But I mean, that's all I have to say. Survival of the fittest, but it's okay.
Devin?
Yeah, so actually UTA surprised me by like the diversity because, you know, I went to a predominantly Black education half of my years in like K through 12, and then I transferred, like my parents moved and we moved to like a predominantly white, like middle school and high school. So when I went to UTA, it actually surprised me, like the diversity. There were a significant amount of white students, but there were also like really big population of Black students and Hispanic students and people from like the Middle East. It was a huge population. So that to me from like middle school and high school was like kind of a culture shock because I've never seen so many diverse people from like different backgrounds and like different religions and sexual orientations. Like it was honestly like the most best decision I've ever made. However, I am transferring to another school. I'm transferring to UT, but I've always wanted to go to UT because like it's, for me, going to PWI, it's hard when there's a lot of white people around. But the one thing I like to think is like integration. I do like think that having and expanding our Black spaces to other colleges like PWIs is important for like the future. And so like that was like my whole goal for going to UT. And like even coming from like UTA, like UTA's prepared me to do great things on that campus. But definitely like I was very surprised how diverse UTA was. Like it's definitely like a PWI, but it's definitely one where you step on campus and you'll have classes where it's not just white people. You'll have classes where it's different people from all parts of the world. And that's something that I would like to see in other PWIs. Like I want a PWI to become a PEI, like predominantly everybody like institution. So everyone's there. So like that's like my goal for like going to a PWI, and it really wasn't like difficult for me to choose a PWI just because like going through like middle school and high school, it really like prepared me to be more secure and like my person, my well-being. So like it's definitely, I kind of feel like people, I don't know, when people like look at you and they're like, why are they there? But I'm like, y'all, I'm at the same table as y'all. Like y'all need to just like calm down. I feel kind of like, I feel good that I'm paving a way. Like I feel like you're mad because I'm here, but that's all that matters is that I'm here and I'm gonna help other people like us be here for the future.
Snap on that. Snap on that. Jackson?
Can you repeat the question again?
Okay. The question is, how is your experience on a PWI campus since you go to UTA?
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. As Devin said, UTA truly is really diverse. Like, if you don't want to talk to white people, you don't have to. Like, take, for instance, my engineering class. There is, like, 3 white kids, 4 black kids, and, like, 7 different Indian kids. We, like honestly, you don't have to, you don't have to talk to white people at all if you don't want to, or interact. You know, you rarely see them, to be honest, you know, because it's like, I think it's like 40% or 35, something like that, 33. And like Hispanic is like 30 right behind there. So it's like a pretty diverse, like white kids are the majority, but overall, everyone else is, which makes it very nice and easy. And that's what honestly attracted me. Growing up in all white schools, and especially like with my background being like St. Louis with the cornfields and stuff, you know, going to a diverse school, experiencing so many different perspectives and identities, I absolutely love that.
Most definitely. I'm just going to like put in real quick, UTA, the percentage of white people is 36.3%. Hispanic and Latin is 23.7%.
Dang, I was off.
It's 14.2%. SMU, 65% white, 11% Hispanic and Latino, 8.2 non-resident aliens, and 6.1 Black African Americans. Spelman, 96.4% Black, 1.54% American and Indian or Alaskan Native, and Morehouse is 94.6% Black. Just had to put that out there real quick. That way people know what's going on in these racial demographics. Anyway, Jeremiah.
That's crazy.
Did you want to speak, Jeremiah, or are you good?
Oh, my apologies. My page working out. When I first came to UTA, I guess I was actually upward bound. So I've been on the campus. I've known a couple of chemists for like a couple of years, but being as a student, I felt like it was good to see the diversity. And you're open to a lot of things. Well, my eyes have been open to a lot of things, and I saw like people's true colors in a way. Especially being part of this thing called Progressive Student Union, and just me being active in the community where we try to change things, so you kind of see the other force. You know what I'm saying? I'll go around and see stickers saying like white supremacy stickers and stuff like that, and you see people who I saw more close-minded people when I'll be in certain classes, you know, many political classes and like that, like political science. I would see. Like just seeing like you see that it's there, you know what I'm saying? It's not out there in the country or just on the media. It's real, you know what I'm saying? And like I saw a lot of racists. I saw racists come in different forms, you know what I'm saying? I know like three or 4 race people who are LGBTQ. You know what I'm saying? So it's like it comes from all sides of life. I know people on both sides can be racist and or homophobic. There's another transphobic, and I think it was very interesting. Like, I honestly, I like UTA for the diversity. I just like the people. I really don't plan on transferring anywhere else, and I am coming in the fall again. But you know, it's what the weird thing with me is I never really saw it as like a predominantly white. I saw a little bit of everything in a way. I didn't even know what to call it when I first came there, because it's not a predominantly black at all. It's not really predominantly white. To me, it's like a mixture, but
Okay. My experience, so I was accepted to SMU for the spring of 2020. So like my first semester, I wasn't there at all in the fall. Then I came in the spring, which sadly COVID just had to take out. But getting ready to go to SMU, and whenever I was like getting all my stuff ready, and whenever I went to like supermarkets or stuff, but if like I just bumped into someone, and if they just wanted to start talking to me, I'd be like, and they're just like, what school are you going to? And I'm like, oh, I'm going to SMU. And most of the time it was like a non-person of color, and they'd be like, oh, you're going to SMU? I'm like, yeah, I am. And they're like, oh. And then they'd be like, really? And I'm just like, no, like, I just told you that I'm going to SMU. Getting on campus, I did feel very overwhelmed since I was like a freshman. I'm not really going to hide it, since like I didn't like immediately like go in and start like finding like the Black Students Association at school, and I was just trying to like get all my classes. Like, I won't lie, there were some times where like I would be in my car and I would have a breakdown. So I'm just like, what in the world am I doing here right now? Like, why do I feel like so alone? And it hit me really hard, and it reflected in my schoolwork, because your girl was not doing that good when I got on campus, because I'm just like, oh, I feel so alone. Started crying a lot. Started telling my mom, like, I got to get out of here. Like, after the semester is over with, like, I need a transfer. But I realized that if I wasn't on campus, I would not be doing this at all, and seeing what really has been going on my school, and really getting to know myself better, and like identifying more with my African American history and culture. So now I really just feel like it's given me more like a voice, and really like me walking into like, okay, like my school, they have organizations for Black people, like we freaking rock. Like, let me just go find these people and let me just immerse myself in that culture, because there needs to be more Black space in SMU, I do believe. With the petitions that we've sent to President Turner, I do believe those need to be met. And let's hope it doesn't take 20 years later where some other Black students come up in there and ask the next president, you need to make sure these needs and demands are met. And I really do hope so. So I really do think we are making a change on my campus, most definitely. So now we're going to switch it over to the HBCUs, okay? So we're going to start with Carrington. And what has your experience been like at HBCUs?
It's definitely, for obvious reasons, different than my experiences going to schools in Frisco, Texas. I was definitely overwhelmed at first going to orientation week at Spelman, because I felt like I wasn't gonna really like fit in with everyone else, because I had always gone to predominantly white schools all of my entire life, so I didn't know if I'd be able to relate with the people there. And on top of that, I'm really shy, so it's hard for me to like make friends quickly. So but it was very honestly opening. Like, everyone was welcoming, and I found out fast that everyone kind of had the same experience as me, that they went to predominantly white schools their entire life. So it was easy to like bond with people like that, and then talk about our experiences. And, you know, the traditions that Spelman and Morehouse have were like really just, you kind of feel like of family, like as soon as you get there. At least for me, like the sisterhood at Spelman, I didn't feel it right away, but after the we have something called like orientation ceremony where the alum bring us into where they welcome us as Spelman sisters, and after that I definitely felt like I was at home. So it's a little bit of my experience.
Jordan?
My HBCU experience in Morehouse is definitely, it's been amazing. I remember back when I was in high school, back in my high school, like being like a black man or something like that, and like being in like 11th or 12th grade, like you didn't really have plans to go to college. Like most people expected you to just, okay, go to work and probably just go to like a community college, something like that. But my brother, he goes to Morehouse College, and he's a junior right now. He's gonna be a junior. And so when I was in 12th grade and he was a freshman, he was like, you gotta figure out where you want to go. You gotta figure out where you want to go. Like you have to have a plan. And I was like, I don't have a plan. And so he took me to his dorm room. He let me stay in his dorm room for like one night and let me get like that experience at Morehouse. And then also let me go like in shadow into his classes. And I was all like going through that and learning through everything. I came back to my school and I was like, yo, like I learned so much about Black culture in itself in one day than I've like learned in my whole entire like lifetime at this school. Like I've learned so much more in one day. And I was like, I gotta go to this school. And it's expensive. I'm not even gonna lie to you. It's a little pricey, but the experience is definitely worth it. Like NSO week, definitely just gives you a feel of the environment and shows you like, you know, you're not alone. And it just gave me like a plan because like I'm a creative person. Like I like to do like music and film and things like that. So they kind of just showed me like, you know, there's a room for that. Like there's a room for like Black directors and things like that. And like people are just so uplifting and they just always have your back. Like you're never alone. Like even if you feel like you're alone, you always have somebody there to like pick you up and be like, hey, you good? Like we like hold each other down, like got each other's back, things like that. And that's what like I really appreciate about Morehouse, because like I've never like got to witness that wherever school I went to and things like that. So just having that, I really enjoyed it. So
Monique?
So I think that like a lot of times when people think about HBCUs, they think about the homecomings and all of that and like how fun it is. And I'm not gonna lie, it's so much fun, like way more fun than I thought it was gonna be. But I think that one thing that Spelman has really taught me in my HBCU is growing up, I was always the smart Black girl, but at Spelman, I've learned to build an identity outside of that. And I've always had separate interests, but I felt like that was something that I had to pursue outside of school. But like Spelman lets me create that inside the classroom. And I didn't even think I was going to go to an HBCU growing up. Like I loved Spelman in middle school, but then I heard it was all girls and had no sports, so I was done with that. But I truly love Spelman for all that it is. Like even when it's super ghetto, I love it. And it's an experience that I wouldn't trade, even if I'm gonna go into debt.
But you were going to dead. At this moment, Jackson Carrington, do you have any questions that you want to ask before I go on?
If I could go first, I'd love to ask everyone's police experiences on campus, if you have any to tell or like know any from your friends. So I'll start with Jordan.
For me, I haven't had any bad like experiences with police on campus. Nothing on campus like that. I've had some outside experiences that was kind of trash, but I usually just kind of just stayed to myself in high school, and definitely what's it called? Definitely in Morehouse. Like they're not really tripping except if like you go to Spelman and like you try and go to the gate. They're like, where's your ID? Where's the ID? That's the only time they trip. But that's kind of about it. Yeah.
Would you like to talk about your experiences outside?
Yeah, I could do that. Outside, it's definitely been a trip. I remember I had one experience to where it was like back where I used to live, there would just be people that would just be tripping sometimes, like exes kind of. But they we think it was like one like an ex or something like that, or like a person we used to know. But somebody called into our house and told the police that we had a person that was kidnapped in our house. So they came to our house and they made us stand outside of our hallway because we're like in an apartment, so we had to stand outside the breezeway. And this was on my brother's graduation day, and so we was all just standing outside our house, but the police just kind of went through our house and stuff like that, and like moved around our stuff to make sure there's no like girl that was in there. So
That's messed up, bro. Yeah, that's messed up. Thank you for sharing, Bethany.
So kind of like echoing off of what I said before, my police experience with SMU has not been really positive. Like I guess like them following around my car was not like a positive experience. I mean, other than that, like I personally haven't had any like traumatic experiences with SMU PD. I've definitely experienced traumatic experiences outside of SMU PD. But like gathering like information from students who are willing to tell their stories, I've seen like horrific things that SMU PD has done, like, you know, pulling guns out on students or like harassing students. That's like something that's happened for sure. I guess like I have like I have a really bad relationship with police, and I feel like a lot of Black people do, just because of the way that we were socialized, and then also because of like our interactions individually with police. I remember once when I was like 13, I was babysitting my brother at my house, and I guess like the alarm system tripped, and the police came, and they like drew their guns at me and my 7-year-old brother. They like what they were interrogating us, and I was like, we're literally children. They were like, why don't you have an ID? Why can't you show us your ID? And I was like, I'm 13. I have no ID. I can't drive. I can't, you know, like, what do you mean I don't have an ID? And they were like, you know, spell your like address. And I was like, okay. And, you know, like, stay in it, and just kept like, you know, interrogating me and my brother. And it was like an incredibly traumatizing experience for not only him, but like me as well. And so like, always when I see police officers, like there's an immediate like fear reaction, and then like that fear reaction is reinforced when they do things like tail me for being a Black woman driving on campus. Yeah.
Thank you for sharing. Oh my gosh. Sierra.
I really haven't had like a police experience. The only one I can think of is it was me and my dad was driving. We were driving back from a basketball game, and the police pulled us over, and my dad like rolled down the car window, and the police officer just stared at my father, and then like he looked at me and he like stared at us, and he asked me, he's like, ma'am, or like, you okay, like, is everything fine? And I kind of gave like the police officer this look like, yeah, like nothing's wrong. The last time I checked, he's just like, I'm just making sure. And he's just like, who's the man right here? And I'm just like, this is my dad. We're just getting back from a basketball game. And he's just like, I'm just making sure, you know. And I was asking him, like, why did we get pulled over? Like, we weren't doing anything. And my dad, he was just driving like this old, like, blue truck. So I really don't know why this man pulled us over for no reason. He gave a very pathetic excuse why he pulled over my dad, but he must have thought that my dad must have kidnapped me from somewhere or something like that. So it was very interesting. I'm just like, they will do anything, kind of. That was kind of like the moment in my mind. I'm just like, wow, they'll think of anything. Because, like, I'm like, me and my dad, we look alike. And I'm just like, you should kind of pick up the hint that, like, we're related. But it's kind of whatever, so.
Damn. Yeah, most definitely. Devin.
Yeah, so on UTA's campus, I've had a lot of run-ins with the police, and I don't even have a car. Like, I'm always in someone else's car. But one experience I do remember is when we were going to Walmart, and I was in the back seat, and the police told my friend Eliana to roll down the window in the back seat so he could ask me questions. And I was like, no, sir, yes, sir. Like, this is not my car. No, we're just going to Walmart. And he was like, and then Eliana was like, why are you questioning him? It's not his car. And he was like, I'm just making sure everyone in here is fine. We're like, we're all good. We're all fine. But literally, it can be like the Arlington police or the UTA police. But I've had like complications with both of them. So like, if it's a certain time at night, like you better be ready for your errand to be like 45 minutes because they will stop you literally any chance they get. Like, and it's like, I don't even know if it's just a compilation of boredom and just like tuning and like seeing out who are the Black students who are riding around. But like, that's probably the most experience I've had with police officers being pulled over, and I wasn't even the one driving, but I've been questioned every single time, and I was in the back seat almost half the time. So I really, the one time I burst out into laughter because I was just so distraught of what was happening. I was like, wow, this is really happening again. And we barely left the dorm again. So yeah.
Damn. Carrington.
Like Jordan was saying, the only time I really had to interact with campus police is because Spelman is like a private college, so it's gated, is the campus security at the front, just like showing them my ID, or if I needed them to take me to like Walmart or to the store, that's the only time I really had to have an encounter with them. But outside of or like off campus, I really only had one bad experience with my mom. She was driving and she didn't want to, it was dark outside, so she didn't want to pull over on the side of the road because of everything that's happening. She didn't feel safe. So she like went up to an exit to a gas station, which was around people. And they thought that she was like trying to avoid them and run away from them. So they called other cop cars. And so like there were 3 cop cars like surrounding me and my mom's car. And then they like yelled at her like and tried to pull her out of the car. And then like we had to explain why we didn't stop on the side of the road and why we kept going.
Damn.
But that's
I'm sorry. I feel like I'm gonna get your name wrong. Tyne?
Yeah, Tyne.
Yes. Okay.
I would just say that I would agree. I think that the police look for crime, and that is a main issue with the police. And so I would say, based on colorism, I have not had a lot of interactions with the police, especially SMU PD. The only times that I've had interactions with the police is if I called, or I didn't call them, if my family had called them for something, and they don't really help. So that's the only time. And also within the BLM protests, I've been going out basically every time Houston has a protest. And I have a lot of run-ins with the police in that instance. And that's a whole other thing because they're in riot gear, and that's like a whole other like interaction. I have not gotten hurt yet, so that's good. But I know some people who have, so yeah.
Thank you for sharing. Jeremiah?
I've never really had any interaction with the police like that, and like besides protests, like I think I probably went to one protest. It was 6 cop cars around our car, in the parking lot in case we got out of hand, which is why I don't go to practice anymore because I don't like the feelings around cops. But other than that, I've heard stories about the UTA PD. One of my friends were profiled again, racially profiled. Although I never really had the police interact with me. I've had people try to call the cops on me for faulty reasons.
Monique?
So thinking about like Spelman, I haven't really had that many interactions with the police, but I would say that all of my interactions mostly were not positive. And hold on one second, I'm so sorry.
Oh, you're all good.
Yeah.
Sorry, chasing the bag. I'm at work, but
Yeah.
sorry. Side note, love my job. I just give people hand sanitizer, and it's amazing. Oh, okay. But anyways, so a lot of my interactions that I've had with the police at Spelman have been negative, but not necessarily because I'm Black, because I'm in Atlanta. But I think that the police have taught me that in Atlanta that all skin folk and kin folk, like that whole saying is very true. And the police officers have been very derogatory towards me and a lot of my friends, but mostly because we were women. One time there was something, so like Spelman's an all-girls school and men can't be on our campus after 12, and there's a strange man walking around, and my friends called the police and they said, oh, check if he has a gun or not and then we'll come.
What?
People have been accused. One time, like, guys were leaving the gates after 12, and they've made comments like, oh, this is why you guys complain when you're sexually assaulted when this is happening, and just so many terrible things. And Spelman has tried to cut their ties with our security guards, or our campus security is a part of Atlanta PD, and we've tried to cut our ties, but it hasn't really worked. But personally speaking, a couple of months ago, last month, I planned a protest in my town. I live in Massachusetts. My town is now 95% white, 97% white, full of Trump supporters. So I planned a BLM protest on Juneteenth. And I had to have a meeting with our police department because people made posts saying that they were going to hit us with their cars and all of these things. And I think that our meeting went well only because they were scared if our meeting didn't go well, what I would say to the media. It was very about image and very superficial. And on the day of our protest, they came with so many people and they blocked out with cones where we're going to be marching and everything. And then I think they wanted me to thank them. But I will never thank somebody for doing their job.
Most definitely.
So that's really it.
Thank you for sharing. Most definitely. To speak towards my experience with the police, it's been on campus. I haven't had any personally. I do have some friends. Devin, Derek, he has some. But me personally, no, not with the campus police. But one time in high school, I remember it was senior year. We were working on an English project. We were making a film in a public park and stuff. And I don't have a car. I can't drive. So I rode my bike there, and we were riding up to racetrack to go to some food. So I put my bike in the pool area so no one would steal it, not to leave it out somewhere, So some old man comes walking by and sees me putting my bike in the pool area and calls the police on us, which then involves 3 police cars coming to come talk to us. I had to prove we were doing an English project, and they only listened because we had a dinosaur costume for it. And then they finally went away. So that's my experience. And that's it for my questions.
Dang, my goodness.
That's crazy, man.
Most definitely.
Out of this world. Carrington, do you have any, or are you good?
No, most of mine were actually already answered, so.
Oh, okay. Did that. I do want to pose this question to HBCUs since these 2 people did go or still go to Spelman and Morehouse. and we've probably all seen them on the news with the protests for George Floyd, and they're about Messiah Young that goes to Morehouse and Tanya Pilgrim, and we've all known what has happened to them when they were just getting in their car ready to leave, and they were stopped by all these policemen, and they were getting tasered and everything like that. And I want to start out with Monique, and I wanted to get your perspective on this since she is your Spelman sister.
I think that night it was really hard because I think for a lot of people, Twitter is our safe haven. We're always on that. And that night, all these updates were coming in. And we tried to be there for each other as like a Spell House family. But that's when we started working to cut ties with APD because that night was completely unfair. And we've been feeling disconnected from them for the longest time, you know. But we reached out to our president, and we were like, this is how we're feeling. We feel so sad that they had to go through this and everything, and we're so happy it didn't escalate. And our president, Mary, told us we should sit down with the Atlanta Police Department and talk it out. This is the same president who asked Spelman, full of amazing Black women from all different backgrounds. My parents are personally West African immigrants, if we wanted to join ICE because of this amazing opportunity. And so we sent her a whole email chain talking about how that's very insensitive and how we're not going to sit down with these people who maimed our brothers and sisters. And I think that it was just something that we saw those two students be really resilient. And I know that they're like, I think, suing those police officers. And I think it was just another thing that we have to deal with, unfortunately.
Jordan?
For me, I didn't know them personally, but just hearing the news, because my auntie, she goes to Howard, so she's really up to date with a lot of HBCU news. She hit me up about it, and it was just very hard to watch, like just seeing them having to go through all that and knowing what they went through. And it was just hard to know that happened to them. And I wish them the best, and I hope that they get justice for what they went through. And the one thing that I don't want to happen is because so much stuff has been going on, and I don't want it to get to the point to where people see this and are unfazed by it because they see it so much. Like, I feel like that's been happening with a few people that's been going on because this happens so much. Like, this is such a constant thing that's been happening that people just unfazed by it. Like, it's supposed to be like the norm, but it shouldn't be the norm. Like, we should try and change what's been going on, like all this narrative and things like that. Like, there needs to be like a lot of change, and I just really wish them the best what they went through.
Carrington?
I think that Jordan and Monique definitely covered it and said it best. You know, like I actually fell asleep and I woke up to the news of what had happened to them, and I was definitely crushed seeing all the tweets because I had to go scroll through and look all over Twitter and see what people were talking about, and then I woke up to the news, and it was, I could never imagine like what they were going through in that moment, and that's something that's very, very traumatizing. And so that's why it was even more offensive that our president not only like delayed her response in talking about it, but also told us that we should talk it out with them instead of actually doing something to change what had happened. So yeah, that's just my idea.
And I'm sorry, I just want to add on, what also is really hard about that situation is a lot of times going to an HBCU, you're in your safe space, you're only seeing Black creatives, you know, Black academics, and it feels so amazing, but that experience kind of takes you out of that bubble and like reminds you, you're still in America, you're still in Georgia, like racism is still prevalent, while in our HBCU, you know, there's other oppressive forces that are there, like colorism and classism and all these things, but we don't deal with racism on a day-to-day, so it was hard.
Most definitely. I have this question posed to my ladies at SMU. So there were a list of demands that we went forward and presented it to President Turner, and he did Zoom calls and stuff that people could get on. And I wanted to ask you guys, do you think all the demands on that list that we've presented to President Turner, do you think they will actually be met? And so we're going to start off with Stein. We're going to start off with Stein.
Well, actually, since I'm working with the BLM movement, or I guess the leader of it, I don't know. But I actually know that not all of those demands are going to be met. So like that's already been solidified. So as BLM leader, we're going to fight back against that. But in terms of those demands specifically, they are very, very watered down demands. So if SMU can't meet those demands in which they should have been already aggressively pursuing, then they're going to have a media firestorm on their hands from student challengers such as Bethany. So that's what I have to say about BS.
Wait, Time, can you say some of the demands for the people that don't know them?
Oh yeah, sorry. So like some of the demands are, we have a freshman class that everyone has to take. Basically making sure 1/3 of that class is on cultural sensitivity and racism and white supremacy, et cetera, because they do have a portion of that class for that, but it's not enough. Another demand is changing the percentage of faculty and staff that are Black or by people of color. I believe, what are some of the other demands? Actually, all of the demands aren't even demands. Some of them are just strongly recommended suggestions as well.
Yeah, like some of them are like making sure that cultural sensitivity training is given to faculty and staff. I know that like separating, so we have this board that was created out of the first Black at SMU movement, and it's called the CIQ board, but it's basically a watered down version of what the students asked for. And what they're supposed to do is like cultural intelligence and stuff like that. But what they want to do now is separate the two. And so like have like a board that like advocates for like students of color on campus and have like representatives for that. But yeah, like Ty was saying, like a lot of these demands, they're on like the SMU ABS Instagram if anyone wants to check them out after. But a lot of the demands are so like basic needs that like people should have like on a college campus. Like it's ridiculous that these demands won't be met. And it's ridiculous that these demands, like in, I believe it's 2015 where the first Black at SMU movement like happened, that those demands weren't met. So I think it's wild that we're still having this conversation, but like Tyne said, like we are going to push back if these demands aren't met. But it's wild that our university won't do simple things like increase like Black faculty and staff, which we know we don't have like an abundance of. Not even like the 6%, which meets like the student population that we have. So yeah, it's incredibly frustrating being a Black student. And I can imagine like incredibly frustrating for you, Tyne, because you've been in those meetings with administration. But yeah, I am disheartened by the fact that our university is doing this, but like it's also, I don't know, it's a very typical SMU response. So when I saw the demands, I was cautiously optimistic, like glad that students were coming forward and asked for these things, but cautiously optimistic that these demands will be met. But that doesn't mean that we're not going to keep fighting and not going to keep pushing back. And so like, I guess like get ready for the media storm because it's coming, because I already know that these demands won't be met, but they need to be, because like we should have Black mental health professionals on campus, and we should have like systems that like uphold Black students, and like a comprehensive training, like, and just like upholding like general like non-discrimination policies is like some of these demands. So yeah.
And let me just quickly quickly add also, and I wrote an article about this for the Daily Campus, but specific institutions like SMU and Yale and Harvard and Baylor, like those specific institutions are so rooted in white supremacy that honestly, unless they are actively and aggressively being anti-racist, there is no solution besides that for institutions like that. And so although I am at SMU and going to graduate from SMU, I would not recommend, unless you are ready to be a part of that type of system, to go to that type of school. Because SMU was, like they tell you in orientation, we were created to mimic Yale and Harvard and get whites ready for elite enriched society. So like, that's all I gotta say.
Times I can go off on like a whole 30-minute hour rant on this. But the last question that I have for you all today is, what do you hope for in the future to come from this movement? Because we've sadly seen a lot of young African American, even just Black men, being killed by police, and we've seen people just literally just go through life if it's nothing. Like Jordan said, we don't want to be desensitized to this any longer. So I'm going to start off with Jackson, and just what is your hope from this at the end of the day?
I think I just have a simple hope. I just hope action comes out of this. You know, we've seen this movement repeat and repeat as we've tried to get people to listen to us. And now that people are, I hope now we can have action follow through and have support for these actions that we are trying to push.
Monique?
I've honestly never thought about like what I'd want. Like, I know that I've really been doing this work honestly since middle school, but when I think of this movement, it's more than just police brutality to me, because racism manifests itself in so many different ways, you know. So I guess I just want to be like I have to be forced to think about how Black and what that means. You know, I love being Black, but like I want to think about it on my own terms. Yeah.
Definitely. Jeremiah?
One thing I want to see come out of this movement is just like I see it as already resilient. Like it's growing, but I want to see, like Jackson, I just want to see change. Really, I don't want to see this movement taken in vain, because it's very real and it's something so serious.
Most definitely. Devin?
Yeah, I think I would like to see the education system from K through 12 being more integrated and more versed in like Black culture, and just accurately and adequately explaining our history and not just like sugarcoating it and just brushing over. And I think that for me personally, like that hits home, because like that's like the root of everyone's education is K through 12. And I think that being educated in all types of like culture, and especially like Black culture and in the Black history for K through 12, like that needs to be something that every like state needs to try to mandate in their schools, because it's too common that we take U.S. history, but y'all just, like U.S. history just keeps on jumping right over like the Black history. Like I think I've taken U.S. history at least 4 times, like in my entire education. Like we take it in elementary school, we take it in middle school, and then like high school and college. So for me, like education is one thing. Also, like making sure that the legal and like law enforcement are trying to at least try to educate like their people more on how to deal with your community, because I find it strange how you don't know a lot about the people that you're supposed to be protecting, when you should at least try to communicate with them and understand people's backgrounds, and everyone's backgrounds are different, and you realize that by talking to people. So I think I just like to see like just education across the board on any like sense, from like K-12 to like college, to like like professionalism and what professionalism is. Oh my gosh.
Okay, Carrington.
I definitely agree with what Devin was going to say. That was kind of going to be my point. Like, I think that education is definitely a key factor in seeing what we all want to see, which is change. Because, like he was saying, like our history, like we in Texas, we have Texas history. Like we have a whole year devoted to Texas history. So it's like, it's not, yeah, no. So I just really think that education needs to be a key part, as well as having more people of color and African Americans in positions of power to be able to make that change, because power is also key.
I second that. Di?
I think I have two hopes. I think one, sustainability. I know for myself personally, I'm committing myself to like my timelines, my social media, my activism like won't stop, because Biden, our election is not going to incite change. So we're going to have to keep going past November. So sustainability would definitely be my first hope, my first pray. Because we also need activist allies to keep this movement going. And, you know, allies, they wishy-washy. So that would be my first hope. My second hope, I think, you know, in a perfect world, in a world where, you know, I don't know, justice was actually a thing. The police, we would see actual defunding of the police, actual abolishment of some police contracts, because, you know, that's what we're fighting for. So we should see it. So those are my two hopes. Of course, the BLM movement is more than police, but, you know, if we can't get that basic money, power, restructuring, where can you go? So, yeah.
Most definitely. Bethany?
I want to echo what everyone has been saying. I think my things are radical systemic change. I want the systems that structurally oppress Black bodies to be eradicated and eliminated. And I want us to have justice in a very broad sense of the term, whether it be economic justice, whether it be the abolishment of police, whether it be the abolishment of prisons that systematically disenfranchise Black and brown bodies. And then like, you know, housing and economic justice, like stuff like that, like basic needs that we should have got a long time ago. Things that we've been fighting for a very long time. I want to see that happen in fruition now. I think that we have a lot of momentum. And I think that we are very resilient people. We are very excellent people. And I think that we deserve that radical systemic change that we've been asking for a very long time. I don't want to have to go on a discussion and talk about structural racism or systematic oppression unless we're talking it from a historical stance. I really want to talk about radical, you know, systemic change that we have. Like, and I want, you know, secured and beautiful and bright Black futures. So that's what I want to see, not only on our campus, but just in the world in general.
Definitely. Jordan?
She basically like covered a lot of what I wanted to say, just like change systematically. I see now that our generation has pushed so much for the Black Lives Movement, and I feel like going down the line we can continue that push, just investing in ourselves, but investing in the future generations so that they can continue to do better than what we're doing now. And just investing in their education as well, and being able, I feel like we need to change, like break down the foundation that our system is built on, because I feel like our system that we have right now in the US was not built for us. It wasn't built for us to really flourish and to like go further and things like that. So I feel like the justice system, things like that, and like having so many people, like Black people in jail, I feel like that needs to be changed, because it's definitely affecting our communities so heavily. So just changing that, like really just changing everything about America, like just having that look of America. I think we need to change that and change that narrative and to be able to have like more Black people in power so they can, you know, have a really positive effect on that change. And then like having more people giving like more investments into Black education and educating more Black people on how to become better and showing that, oh, you can do anything and you could become anything you want to, like not just maybe like a rapper or like anything that they're a basketball player, but you can be like a businessman, like you own like your own businesses, like do anything you want to, like the sky's the limit and things like that, like do anything you would like to. So I feel like pushing that narrative for like future generations, because we already really have that going on right now. So I feel like having that go on in the future, I feel like it's definitely a bright future for us. So
Most definitely. Y'all just like gave me like chills going down my body for what you guys just said. I completely agree with you. My hope is that one day when there's like little boys or little girls who are Black or African American, that when they read a textbook, that that textbook accurately represents who they are instead of how I felt, for where I felt that American history did not reflect who I was as an African American female, and that it just skipped over everything about who I was, and that American history is not one-sided. It can never be. You claim to be the home of the free and the land of the brave, then actually step up to the plate and be like, we are for everyone who is here in America, and don't use it if it's not even true. And also that I can't wait to see, because I can see it in this group, that heck, like some of y'all will be sitting at the table with these Fortune 500 companies, that we will be building banks for our own people and hospitals and schools and all that and above. And it really just start with conversation. So I really do thank you guys so much for getting on this call with us today. Literally game changers in this movement all over. I want to say thank you to, of course, my people, Jackson, Carrington, for getting your people on the call with us. We are most definitely going to have to do another one of these, since this was just amazing. So most definitely, but I thank you all for being on this call with us today. And I just really hope that our voices from this really get heard by other people, and that people just don't slide through Instagram, looking at people's stories and just passing by valuable information. Because if they do that, then they're just adding more to the problem at hand instead of trying to fix it. So I thank you all for being on this call with us today. I really do.
Y'all are lit. It was so good to meet you.
Definitely, really.
It was so great to meet all of y'all.
Yes, it
most
was.
def, most def.
Okay.